Hey sons and daughters, Addison and Juli coming at you today, and we are talking about something that is really important to us.
Yeah, very important.
And
it's important to God.
It is important to God.
Let's pull the God card, but...
And we polled you guys on our Instagram, and it's important to you. So everybody wins.
Yeah.
What are we talking about today?
Talking about being young and married.
Isn't
young
there a
and in
song?
love.
I was young and in love in New York City. We weren't in New York. We
I've
were
never
in
heard
Colorado. Like the first time. Babe, you have heard that song. I'm going to keep going until you admit.
Heard that song.
I look better when I'm with you.
I like me better.
Yeah, you heard it.
Oh, yeah,
you need to repent to all the people.
Well, you were singing it so badly that I had no idea what you were singing.
Young and married.
Young and married.
So going into this, honestly, we were just kind of talking about, what does make marriage so great?
And the expectations around marriage.
Yeah, and what makes our marriage so incredible, because we do.
11 years this year.
Yeah. And we got married at 19 and 22. And so going into it, we had an idea of what it was going to be like, but
we knew nothing.
We never could have known the ins and outs of what marriage truly is.
Yeah.
And, I feel like that is something that's coming against the culture and the generation right now, is what is forming the perceptions that are around marriage, the perceptions that are around dating and engaged in marriage, and from those perceptions, the expectations that people bring into marriage. And I know for me, this was a huge hurdle early on, because I grew up in a family where I didn't have healthy marriage modeled for me, honestly, anywhere. It wasn't modeled in my parents, my aunts and uncles. There was tons and tons of divorce in my family. And so it created this expectation that when I got married and that when it was my time to do it, it was going to look so different from all of those.
Sure, it was naturally going to be the opposite of all of that.
It was going to be perfect.
Because you were now in a Christian home.
Exactly.
You were in a Christian family.
Yeah.
Everything had changed, so naturally, marriage would be easy.
Yeah, and even the way Addison and we did a podcast, maybe it'll come out around the same time, on our story and how we met, and even the way that all happened was very
fairytale-esque. Did you see that? Yes, I knew she was going there.
It was just this storybook whirlwind romance, and we knew, and God just gave us confirmation after confirmation that this was the person for me.
Yeah.
And so with that came, it's funny how we'll tack other things on to the things God speaks to us. It came this idea that because I had found my person, life was going to be perfect and marriage was going to be easy.
Yeah.
So easy.
Yeah.
Because we would see people maybe 5-10 years ahead of us who were married and kind of bickering and fighting. And I just remember we would go to dinner with them or spend time with them, and then our conversation would go something like, maybe they're just not meant for each other.
Yeah.
Because if they had really found their person, they would look like us.
Yeah.
It would just be easy and perfect.
This sounds terrible.
It is.
Now that you're recounting it, it sounds absolutely terrible.
Yeah. We're better people now.
We have grown up a little bit since then.
Anyway, so we say all this because where we want to come to you guys and what we feel to bring is that you have to really be watching and aware of what is forming your expectations around relationships and around marriage, because there are so many people, ourselves included, who embark on this adventure of marriage, on this journey with these expectations, and it just weighs them down. It truly steals from what could be by this idea of what should be.
Yeah. I think one of the things that really messes with people, and this is pre-marriage and it's also post-marriage, people have this idea that the perfect marriage is about finding the right person.
Yeah.
Like if I just find the right person, I'm going to have the perfect marriage.
Yeah.
But what we have found is it's not just about finding that right person, it's about becoming the right person.
Completely.
And that process of becoming is not easy in any context.
No.
And when you come into the context of marriage, you have joined your life with someone else which means that your pain and your process is amplified and seen in their life, and their pain and their process is amplified and seen in your life.
Yeah.
And that's beautiful and it's wonderful, and there's an intimacy that can only be formed in that kind of pain and that kind of growing. And I'm talking about good pain. I'm not talking about bad pain. I'm not talking about something that's sadistic or cruel. There's a quote that I love. It says that pain is good as long as it is necessary.
Yeah.
And God, He uses pain in our lives to open our eyes. Like when I'm in the gym and I'm working out, pain tells me, hey, you're breaking into new thresholds. Like I do not grow my muscles without incurring pain. Like it's impossible. So one of the things that people do in marriage is they start to experience pain and they put a question mark on their relationship.
They put a question mark on the person.
On all of it.
Yeah.
Because of this idea that ease is what we should all be chasing.
Comfort is the ultimate.
And what happens is when we live like that, when we just live for pleasure, we become hedonists, which means all that we do is we make life about pleasure.
Yeah.
Or we become nihilist, which in nihilist just means we're going to break all the rules as long as we get what we want.
Yeah.
And we have a culture today that tells us like, no, hey, it is all about you. It's all about your comfort. It's all about your happiness. It's all about creating a life of ease, which is very contrary to God's view of marriage.
And to the entire gospel.
Which is find someone, godly marriage, find someone that you're willing to lay your life down for. Why? Because marriage is a covenant relationship that points to God's covenant relationship with us. So it's supposed to reveal the largeness of commitment, the largeness of sacrifice, the largeness of true love. So that when we experience that in our relationships with each other, we get an idea, a glimpse, a signpost that points to how God fights for us.
Yeah.
How God's patient, fiery love fights for us, contends for us, is steadfast, is faithful, is immovable, is with us at all times. Like that is what our marriages should model for the people around us and for each other.
Yeah, and it's even as we're not pursuing that pleasure, it's like the God, the mysterious and intricate God, even in the midst of it, it's like we're pursuing growth and wholeness and purity. And in the midst of that even, it's like we see that God infuses our life with that joy and with that peace and with that pleasure and just with that confidence. Like having someone who is with you in everything, there is nothing like it.
Yeah, and that's another thing too that we've seen navigating early marriage with young couples is they're not bringing each other into the process because they're scared to communicate the pain. They're scared to communicate unmet expectations. A lot of people go into marriage saying this is going to be wonderful, this is going to be easy, this is going to be a breeze. And then the first year they're like, wait, what the heck is going on?
Yeah.
Like, why is this different? And then they start to think that there's something wrong with them. But the reality is that tension in marriage, it creates opportunity for you to connect with your spouse and really get to know them and for them to get to know you. So you have to go through that process together. It's not something that you get to do separately. You get to do it together, and that forges and forms intimacy.
Yeah, and having gone your whole life doing those things alone, it is a huge shift.
Massive
to
shift.
Jump into marriage and then have someone who is, literally a part of you.
But sees things so differently than you do.
Differently. So it's like you become bipolar in an instant. I do. And
yeah, it's two halves really reconciling their differences, and we're not talking about becoming the same. We're talking about becoming one. There's a huge difference. You actually can't become one unless you're different.
Yeah.
And so we're talking about two distinct people who are different, who are created by God to be different, who come together to form a union that reveals a unity that models the way Christ loves us. Like that's phenomenal. That's the mystery that Paul writes about in Ephesians 5. Go check it out. It's phenomenal.
That's the beauty.
Yeah.
That's where I know when we interact with couples who we look to and say, that's the marriage I want to have in 30, 40, 50 years. It is people who are so uniquely themselves and who have a marriage that is so beautifully, uniquely its own. It hasn't conformed to any pressures of looking a certain way. But it's this joy that they find in one another, that they find
it's beautiful.
in the union.
The respect, the honor, the appreciation. It's like they both became more of themselves.
And that takes time.
Yeah.
Like I don't know where you're at. I don't know if you're single, if you're dating, if you're engaged, if you're married, if you've been married a long time. All of these things take time, and you go through seasons. The seasons are gifts because they bring different tension, they bring different trials, where you really are able to grow in that. Like Ad said, when pain has a purpose, and there is so much purpose in relational pain, because it leads you to conversation.
It leads you to empathy. It requires you to ask questions, to seek to understand all these things that in our selfish forms we just don't want to do.
We just want to run away from.
Absolutely, because it's scary, it's hard.
Yeah, and if you want comfort, don't get married.
Yeah.
Because it is the most uncomfortable thing that you will ever experience, but it brings the most fruit and goodness.
Right. And for those of you out there, you feel like, I don't know if God's calling me to be married.
Yeah.
An act of obedience will be an uncomfortable decision, bottom line, because really obedience takes us to places that we didn't think we could go.
Yeah.
And so in order for us to go to places we didn't think we could go, we're going to have to disrupt some comfort zones.
We're going to have to do things we didn't think
Absolutely.
we could do.
And if you're listening to this and you're like, man, I want to have this mystery of covenant. I want to have this experience of fighting for someone else, of laying my life down for them. God will still give you the opportunity to do that. Absolutely. You just have to have eyes to see.
Yeah.
And that's one of the beautiful things about being a part of His covenant that He's made with us as the people of God. We get to see each other through that lens. And yes, marriage provides a heightened awareness of what that looks like because of the proximity, but you can create that opportunity to give of yourself in a covenant way to the people in your world.
And you don't have to create it. You seek
it's there.
God for the opportunity.
Absolutely.
And He'll show it to
Absolutely.
you.
He'll give you eyes to see. So Julie, question for you.
Yeah.
What would you say to people who want to be married and aren't married right now? How would you tell them to navigate? Maybe they're young, maybe they're in their 30s, 40s. How would you recommend they navigate the years of singleness to prepare them, if they do want to get married one day, for the giving of themselves in marriage?
Yeah, I love that. I would definitely say first and foremost is you need to control your filter. So what are you allowing to speak to you about what marriage, what relationship, what dating, what these things are going to look like? Because you are sabotaging your own marriage if you are looking at other people's Instagram posts thinking their life is perfect. And I mean, we all know, we've all heard this, and yet what you have to realize is that you subconsciously do it. You're not looking at each picture. Fake. Your brain is telling you it's real because that's what you're feeding your brain.
Sure.
So if you're feeding yourself that, shows like The Bachelor or any of these shows where it makes life look like it's a fairy tale, it's just not. And it's like there are such beautiful moments.
It is a fairy tale, but it's a paradox.
It is, but
it's better than a fairy tale.
It's this comparison.
Yeah.
So if you have marriage up on a pedestal, you either reach up and take it down by allowing God to renew your mind, or it's going to fall and break into pieces.
That's good.
And that's when you'll have to pick it up. Which both, will have their purpose.
It's like what Jesus said about falling on the rock or the rock falling on you. It's like which one do you want to choose?
Yeah, so you do. You have to be watching what you're allowing to dictate. And then also for us, we have been very careful that we have not allowed any voices into our relationship that have not fought for our marriage.
So that would be advice for people who find themselves married right now,
or
navigating
or engaged.
the tension, or dating engaged. So we haven't allowed people into the mix who don't have hope, who don't see our marriage through the covenant lens that God sees it. Like, don't let those people speak into your life.
Yeah.
They will choose confusion. Now, when they're dating or they're engaged, like there are people that should be speaking into their relationship.
And critically. Speaking at the relationship and to the relationship. That's when you're open.
But there's certain people that have a right to do that, and other people, they just have opinion. And you have to decide like who has a voice in your life and who just has an opinion. And you listen to them differently.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah.
So
Anything
what
else
would you
want to
say though, for the single people who
Yeah.
really have this deep desire, they want to get married?
I would tell
Actually, what would you say to the men?
to the men,
Because
single men.
what I have experienced in the Christian world is that there is a lot of incredible single girls, and there are these men like dragging their feet. I don't know what they're looking for.
I'm sorry, guys. Here's the thing. I would say practice how you play. I'm speaking to men, right? So if you think, hey, I'm going to start doing these things when I get married, that's a bad way to look at it. Start doing that now.
Like what?
Whatever it is, whatever disciplines, whatever you know that God's asking you to do to help you grow up, to help you mature, start doing that now. Don't wait until you're in an environment where you have to do that. And honestly, that's advice across the board. Your career, everything. Start doing what you want to do. Start practicing now.
Like say, don't assume you're going to stop looking at porn once you get married.
Exactly.
You're satisfied by your wife.
It's going to feed something totally different.
Yeah.
So all of that. Another thing I would tell them, to the men specifically, Put me on the spot.
Yeah.
I would say that's the big one, honestly, is don't wait until you're there to start doing it. And I would say put yourself out there in the sense, like get to know these girls that are in your world. Like go hang out with them. Don't put yourself in a high pressure situation. Just get to know them, spend time with them as friends. And you know what's so cool about God is when we start yielding to his ways, when we start doing the things that he asks us to do, the world around us starts to change, even though it doesn't change. Yeah. What I mean is we start to see our world with new eyes. And so there might be things in your life right now, people in your life, opportunities in your life, and you just can't see that God is breathing on it, God has blessed it, just because you haven't cultivated the eyes to see.
Yeah.
And so...
you've cultivated the wrong eyes.
Exactly, like which you talked about with the expectations.
Yeah, with women. Guys, if your idea and your expectations of what beauty looks like is just based upon what the world has fed you from a really young age.
Yeah.
I mean, with men in particular, they start so young, showing you images of like girls in swimsuits or whatever these things are.
Sure.
So your idea of beauty has been, if it has been
it's been
fed
compromised.
to you,
it has been.
I think that's where we have to kind of like, it has been compromised.
Sure.
So if you want to be able to truly see the women in your world, if it's a desire for you to find your spouse, then you have to allow God to refocus your attention.
That's good. I have a third point. Do you have anything else you want to share before I share this?
I just want to keep going on that one.
No. I've got something. All right, so here's the third thing. We've got people coming from over 30 states in 10 countries to the Rise event, June 19th through the 21st.
It was a plug.
And gentlemen,
you interrupted
listen.
me for a plug.
No, listen, gentlemen, I'm speaking to you right now. We like 80%. Is that what it is? 80% of the attendees right now are female, and the majority of them are single.
Yeah.
So come on out to the Rise event. Gentlemen, we need you out here. Not only do we need some men to be represented at the event, there's also going to be a lot of godly, wonderful women at the event. So come on out. June 19th through the 21st, details below.
I'll even extend this offer. If you see a girl and you're feeling her and you're like, Julie, can you just like stand in a conversation with us and let me know if you think she's a good one? I will.
We'll pray for you guys.
I am full of opinions. Whether you choose to take them or not is totally up to you.
All joking aside, we would love to see you at the Rise event. If you haven't registered yet, there are still some spots available. As I mentioned, 10 countries, I think, over 30 states represented. It's going to be a phenomenal time. It's going to be
I
powerful.
have one other thought.
One other thought. Okay. Bonus thought.
Yeah. Bonus thought.
Yes. Thought.
For guys, you need to expand your idea of the girls who are in your world, because I have found, and girls too, single humans of Earth.
Wow.
When you go into situations, you have to let those people out of the boxes that you have put them in. They're this, and I'm not that way. They're active, and I don't like to be active. They aren't active, and I'm really active. People change so much.
It's true.
If Addison and I had done that,
We'd never be together.
we never would. And we have changed.
Because we are so different.
We are different. And we've changed one another, and life has changed us. And so just let everybody out of their boxes and
good.
allow God to give you new eyes
Yeah.
to see people.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
Well, this has been longer than usual, but it's a big topic, and it's a topic that honestly we hope to explore more in depth in the future. So we love you. We are for you. Y'all are amazing. Thank you for seeing yourselves as sons and daughters. Thank you for rising into everything that God has for you. Thank you for fighting for your world, fighting for truth, justice, and to be the people of God. We know this isn't an easy journey, but we're here with you, and we want to do it alongside you, and we love you. Until next time.
Okay.